Welcome to another week of Equity Mates. We are pumped to be back. My name is Bryce, and as always, I'm joined by my equity mate, Alec. How are you?
I'm good, Bryce. Excited for another week. We're right in the middle of reporting season. There's some fascinating results coming out. And so today we thought we would talk about a few that caught our eye.
Talk about a few that have caught our eye. And look, the markets are closed now, and we would have been hearing reporting season sort of stats all day, all of last week. So we've got 4 companies here that we think have produced some interesting results, and also I think just a reminder that this is all about sort of our journey of investing, and we want to make this as accessible as possible to you guys. So should we kick into it, Ren?
Yeah, let's do it. I want you to kick it off.
Okay.
Do you want to? What's one company that's caught your eye?
So look, we all know that I'm a bit of a retail fan.
Yes,
and,
you're the self-described retail whisperer.
I wouldn't say self-described. I think that's something that you've given, but anyway, I'll take it. And that is a company that was actually pitched at the Sohn Hearts and Minds conference last year, which caught our attention, and that was Temple and Webster.
Yep.
So Temple and Webster are an online retailer, homewares and furniture, specialising in homewares and furniture, up against the likes of Nick Scali and co. And revenue has more than doubled to 161 million. So they've done pretty well, you would say.
Yeah, you would say. A lot of people online shopping at home, I guess.
Well, that's the thing, and we'll get to that in a second. But not only have they been able to double revenue, their EBITDA is up to 14 million, and that is an increase of almost 600%, 550% increase on same time last year, which is close to twice the full times earnings of their 2020 financial year. So
their earnings for the half were more than double what their full year earnings last year were.
Yeah.
Oh, you take that.
You would take that. You would take that. So look, pretty phenomenal from Temple and Webster. But as you mentioned there, Ren, it is all about COVID coming off the back of this retail boom where we saw structural shift in, I guess, people moving much more towards online retailing, and they really benefit from it.
Yeah, I mean, I've never really thought about buying a couch online or buying, big ticket homewares items online. But I guess if you're stuck at home, working from home, looking at your house, looking at some of your furniture and thinking, I can do better.
Yeah, and I mean, the desk that you needed, the office chair that you needed,
yep.
New couch, spending more time at home. So really benefited from that. Active customers have doubled as well, 678,000 active customers. And interestingly, their profit margin has improved again. And this is off the back of a greater shift towards private label. And they also don't hold a lot of stock. They have a drop shipping method. So they, drop their couches out of the sky. No, that's not what happens. But they don't have a huge inventory, and so they can keep their costs reasonably low.
There you go. It's a fascinating company. We could talk more about it, but we won't.
Yeah.
My final thought is just how much of this is short-term COVID and how much of this is long-term people changing their habits and choosing to shop online rather than at some of their bricks and mortar competitors.
Yeah, good observation. The good news for them is that they're getting repeat customers online more than they were this time last year. So hopefully that can continue.
Yeah, nice. Well,
so what have you got?
I want to bring one to the table, and as you've called yourself the retail whisperer, I will stay in this space. JB Hi-Fi.
Okay.
JB Hi-Fi for me is obviously a fascinating company. That's not saying anything new. It's a company that I imagine is studied in MBAs all over Australian universities. They were once the big CD and DVD seller, competing with the likes of Sanity and, was it HM1?
Yeah, something
HMV.
like that. HMV, yeah.
Sanity and HMV didn't pivot, and they're no longer here. But JB Hi-Fi have pivoted, and they've pivoted strongly, and they have released another incredible set of results. So much so that their CEO came out and warned that Australia was facing a television shortage.
TV crisis.
Yeah. Obviously, there are some supply chain constraints, but the JobKeeper and JobSeeker payments have, a lot of them have gone straight to TVs,
That is
I guess.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
No way.
But to give you some of the numbers, so half-year revenue up 24% to a scratch under $5 billion. Profit up 85%. Online sales, now I know this is a big metric that you care about. Online sales up 162% to $679 million. And just as a cherry on top for investors, they doubled their dividend.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those businesses that reporting season after reporting season, JB's always mentioned.
Yes.
And the question is like, is this, how long can this continue? What is it that is making them stand out from their competitors? Is again, this just off the back of the JobKeeper, JobSeeker? But there's just, it's a phenomenal business. Yeah.
Look, both you and I were former retailers before we decided to do financial media full time. And I think the one thing that a few retailers in Australia can capture is that feeling of excitement when you go into the store. I think Bunnings do it really well, and I think JB's another one where they're such good retailers that you want to go there, and there's a feeling of like anticipation about what you're going to buy, what you're going to find. And you generally will spend more than you expected to.
Which is an interesting point though, because here you've said online sales up 162%. So obviously less people are going into store and more turning online, but perhaps their online experience is just as good. I've only ever bought in store.
They still brought in $4.3 billion worth of sales in store. So let's just call it on that. Yeah.
No, it's a good point. And I have only ever bought something in store at JB as well. So there you go.
You're not very technically proficient.
Anything else before we move on?
No, I think that's enough. I mean, let's hear another one from you.
So this one I would say is not right in my circle of competence. It's definitely not retail, but but the numbers are just phenomenal, and that is Fortescue Metals Group. And Ren, we're obviously in what could be deemed as another resources boom. The iron ore price is just skyrocketing at the moment, and obviously the result for that is that all these companies, Fortescue, Rio, BHP, are turning in some pretty impressive numbers. So Fortescue are just banking cash from this boom. Net profit after tax up to 4.1 billion for the half. And on the back of that, Ren, you've just mentioned good for the shareholders for JB, where, for the half, they have increased their dividend by 92%, 92% to $1.47. So look, why is this happening? Well, we've got increased demand coming from China. Obviously, their COVID over there has somewhat been quashed, and they're sort of back up, raring to go. Record steel production over there, so that is putting a lot of demand for the product of Fortescue. There's also supply constraints in South America, which is another producer of iron ore, and that is the result of COVID. They haven't been able to control it so well, and so the production facilities over there are really constrained. So Fortescue able to really take control and benefit from that. But what I found most fascinating is that Andrew Forrest, the chairman and founder, owns 36% of the company. After doubling the dividend, he took home 1.64 billion
for the half.
For the half. For the half in dividends. 1.64 billion in dividends to Andrew Forrest, which is staggering numbers.
Yeah, not bad. You wouldn't
numbers.
complain. I mean, the Fortescue story is a fascinating one. The way that they've managed to control their costs and become the lowest cost producer, or one of the lowest cost producers in the iron ore space, is a pretty incredible story. And this is the result of it. When there's a resources boom, they can just spit out cash like none of their competitors.
You're right, and if you do look at their costs, they call it the C1 cost relative to this time last year. It's pretty much flat. So costs have remained somewhat the same, and they've just benefited from this iron ore price rise.
Now there's a question about what happens next, because in times of economic trouble, governments like to build their way out. They like to announce big infrastructure plans because that gets jobs back, and then that money starts to trickle through the economy. And China, as you said, is building, but it'll be interesting to see. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if before the election, whenever ScoMo calls it, that Australia announces a big infrastructure plan.
Yeah.
There's whispers in the US that Biden is going to announce a big infrastructure plan and try and do something, to bring Republicans and Democrats together. So, if there's a big infrastructure build around the world, steel benefits, iron ore benefits, Twiggy Forest benefits.
In terms of what's next, Ren, I just want to close out. You may have heard of Twiggy's jet-setting ways over the last few months. He's taken a team literally around the world to try and find renewable projects to put, I guess, his hard-earned cash to work through one of his entities. And Fortescue have said that in future it's going to be putting 10% of net profits towards the subsidiary Fortescue Future Industries, which is all about finding these renewable energy projects around the world. So obviously recognising that this is a space for future cash flow and investment.
Yeah, Twiggy gave a really interesting speech recently on hydrogen. He's obviously a big believer in the role that hydrogen can play in our future.
Yeah.
You know, Australia, for a number of reasons, from what the CSIRO are doing to some of our sort of natural resources, we have potentially a big future in hydrogen. So it'll be interesting to see what Fortescue and what Twiggy do in that space. And maybe that's the topic for another episode in a future week.
All right, well, let's close it out. You've it looks like sticking to retail again.
Well, look, full credit to you. This is a stock that you pitched maybe 2 years ago on our podcast.
Yeah.
And it just keeps going from strength to strength. The reason I've chosen it, well, I'll say what it is. I won't keep anyone in suspense. It's Breville, the appliance maker, coffee machines, toasters, blenders, you know, all the good stuff.
Yeah.
89-year-old appliance company, but it has seen incredible growth recently. So in the half year just gone, revenue up 29%, profit also up 29%, but the sales globally, North America up 29%, Asia Pacific up 50%, Europe, Middle East and Africa up 56%.
Wow.
It's growing globally,
Yeah.
and it's a really impressive story. It's actually cut its dividend, but it's cut its dividend to fund further growth, which, you know, as long-term investors that want to see companies take their profits, reinvest them and expand their businesses, that's not something I'm too worried about. I'm sure there's a lot of ASX investors that don't love the idea of a cut in dividend. But the reason that this company has stood out for me is the difference management can make. So the current CEO, Jim Clayton, took over in 2015. And this isn't from 2015, but in the last 4 years, global sales for Breville have grown at 21% compounding annually.
Wow.
And it's just...
For a 90-year-old company.
Yeah, for a 90-year-old company, new CEO comes in, obviously reinvigorates their global strategy, and they've really been able to grow global sales on the back of it.
Well, when we did pitch it, what was it, 2 or 3 years ago on the show, you know, it was at the time that they had just launched this new strategy, which was to go global, target, you know, Europe, the Americas, and really increase the penetration of sales from their global, I guess, markets. And it looks like it's really starting to pay off. So it's good to see. Go Breville.
Yeah, well, if that isn't a plug to listen to the podcast and listen to the retail whisperer talk about his favourite sector, then I don't know what is.
So look, there's 4 companies from that have sort of captured our eye over the last sort of 3 weeks. We're heading into the last week of reporting season this week, but obviously you can see that our bias here is certainly towards retail.
That's actually a coincidence from me. I know it sounds that way, but maybe next week we have to do a non-retail earnings episode.
Nice one. All right, well, that brings us to the end of another episode of Equity Mates. Very much looking forward to what pans out for the rest of the week. If you would like more information, you can head to equitymates.com or email us at contact@equitymates.com. But Ren, big week coming up.
Big week coming up. Probably none more anticipated than Afterpay's earning results, which I think come out on Thursday.
Yeah.
So before then, in preparation for the big announcement from Afterpay, we are going to bring back the Bull v Bear segment. We've got 2 experts. We're going to have one make the bull case, one make the bear case for Afterpay. So make sure you tune in, same time, same place tomorrow, where we bring back that segment for probably the most talked about ASX.
Yeah, it's going to be huge.
So can't wait to see you there.